Welcome to One Sharp Sword, cutting through to what matters most. I'm your host, Dr. P, Dr. Wayne Pernell, the exponential success coach. I have with me today Donnie Boivin, who is an entrepreneur, kind of a serial entrepreneur, and he has founded Success Champions and a group called Success Champions Networking. It's kind of interesting because I was teasing with him earlier that I was going to introduce him as a turkey farmer and what kind of guy that's up to his knees in chicken poo really teach us about business. But apparently there's a lot there. So
there is.
there totally is. There totally is. So Donnie, welcome. So glad to have you.
Oh, thanks, brother. I'm glad to be on here. Dude, first I got to tell you, I love the name of your show.
Thank you.
Everything in my life is centered around the kind of medieval fantasy world. All the branding's done in that way. So One Sharp Sword just fits right in our wheelhouse. So I was stoked when this one popped him up.
That's so good. Thank you so much. The subtitle that occasionally I will say out loud is, that one sharp sword is so much better than 1,000 dull knives. And so many people live their lives trying to get through with, here's another dull cut and here's another dull, attempt. And it's like, you just need one sharp sword to cut through and you will get to what matters most. And so, yeah, some thought went into the name, and I'm glad you love it. I'm glad.
Dude, I love that. And I'm going to come right at you with it. So Success Champions is the name of my company. And when I was naming my company, I was watching the movie Troy with Brad Pitt in it. And if you remember the beginning scene of that movie, Brad Pitt, there's two armies come together and the kings get together and say, look, all of our men can die, or you choose your best, I choose my best, and whoever wins, wins it all. Long story short, Brad Pitt comes in, one move, kills the other guy, and instantly the war is over. And I was sitting there watching that. I knew success was going to be the name of my company. And I realized this stuff used to really happen where kings and queens chose their one champion to go represent their entire company. And the first thought that ran through my head was, when do people choose them? When do they decide that they're going to be their own success champion? Because nobody else is going to do it for you. Nobody else is going to step up and get you to success. You've got to be the champion of your own success. And that's how our company name came about.
Can I just repeat or echo what you just said? You've got to be the champion of your own success. It's huge. That's huge. You and I both work with people who are successful, and we've seen our share of people who are just waiting for their break. They're waiting for the sign. They're waiting for, and it's like the signs are right there. The break is right in front of you, and you've got to be the one to take that step. You've got to be the champion of your own success and be brave enough to take a step and say, okay, I'm banking on me, and to recognize that sometimes there's work, and sometimes the work feels like fun, and sometimes it feels like herding or corralling chickens and turkeys and ducks and geese.
Well, along that line, Doc, the self-help movement has really harmed a lot of people's mindsets around this ideal. And here's what I mean. The first book that I was handed as a kid, and it's a phenomenal book, is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Right? The problem was, as I read this book, and I think a lot of people read that book, you hear, I can think and become rich, right? The book never says in there, you think and become rich, right? It's think and grow rich.
Yes.
And so I think myself for 20 years chasing kind of that self-help guru world was this idea that I could manifest my destiny, that I could think my way to freaking success. And what people forget is, like, a buddy of mine, Tony Watley, put out this meme the other day that was just hilarious. And it's him standing in front of this massive dumbbell or barbell with a ton of weight on it. He goes, I'm manifesting that barbell up right now. I'm manifesting that barbell up. And he goes, well, damn, I still have to lean over and pick up the damn thing. And it was just funny to me to put it out that way. And I think that's where the self-help movements really hurt people, because they've got people down this path that they can think their way to success. When success comes after getting punched in the face by working your ass off, and doing the thing, screwing it up, learning from it, and getting up and going again.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
People want this fantasy journey of, ooh, look, magic things happen and now I'm successful.
Well, the manifestation, I think, people see the end result, which is part of the manifestation. Let's use the barbell example. The way to manifest that barbell being up is get yourself to the gym. That's one, right? That people are actually taking steps to do it. And that it's not like, oh, I'm thinking, right? There's a difference between magical thinking and manifesting. And you can manifest, and usually it comes in stages. Right. So stage one, I'm manifesting great strength, right? Where I'm going to lift this barbell. Awesome. Stage one, get your butt to the gym.
I agree.
Stage two, lift small weights. Stage three, lift small weights some more. Right. Sometimes it takes a while. So
well, and to compound on that, I'm looking at Tony in this picture, and he's probably got 500 pounds on the ground. And Tony's not that big of a dude, but he's able to pick up 500 pounds, like multiple times. And I'm not sure how much weight it actually is, but the only way Tony manifested picking up 500 freaking pounds, if we want to go that route, is he showed up to the gym every freaking day, picked up weights, probably to his extreme, pushed himself to his absolute limit, then came in the next day and did push himself to his absolute limit, came in the next day, pushed himself to his absolute limit. And eventually he got an incremental growth to be able to lift up that 500 pounds. So yes, get yourself to the gym, but it's more about getting yourself to the gym consistently every day. Show up, do the work. I'll even take it to the farm for you. That's just a perfect analogy. So I do have a full working dwarf Nigerian goat farm, right? So we have a ton of goats on the property. And here's what I know. I don't get a day off of being a guy who has a goat farm. The goats can't take care of themselves, right? The goats can't feed themselves. They can't let themselves out in the pasture, right? I could sit here all day and wish and hope somebody would come let them out, somebody would feed them, somebody would water them, everything else. I can wish all I want. But every day, no matter what, I got to go out, throw hay to the goats, throw grain to the goats, water the goats, let them out in the pasture, let them out of the barn. I don't get a day off doing that. I chose this lifestyle. I love this lifestyle. And by the way, I run 3 companies, why I have a full working goat farm, right? What people don't understand is when you're running a business, there are no days off, right? You got to do the work until the work's done, because I don't care if I go give a keynote presentation somewhere, fly back home, and if I get in at dusk, I still got to go out to the barn, put the goats up, put them, so predators don't get them, right? There's no days off of taking care of the farm. There's no days off in taking care of your business. It's the same thought process. People are living life to where they think they bought freedom by leaving corporate America and starting a company. Right? They left corporate America because they wanted all this freedom. They could work whenever they want, however they want, and the likes. And the problem with that entire thought process is the true people who are finding success aren't trying to work whenever they want, take off. They're trying to build a lifestyle where work and life is so integrated and so fun that you build this empire where your family's enjoying the ride as well. And it's all integrated. We're not looking for a work-life balance, because work-life balance is only for people who hate what they do. Right? If you actually enjoy what you do, then everything's integrated and you're going to work until all the work's done.
Yeah, there's a great myth of work-life balance. And the myth is that there's a balance that you are seeking and that someday you'll attain. And the reality is that being in balance is actually dynamic. It's never static, right? So just as you fix one thing, another thing moves. The other thing that I like to say is that, as an entrepreneur, as somebody who runs my own business, I only work 2 times a day.
Yeah.
I work daytime and I work nighttime.
Right.
Like,
I haven't heard that one. I like that one.
yeah. There are only two times, daytime and nighttime. The truth is, I am building free time into my work life balance. I'm into my life, right? I'm building free time, and that is, for a farmer, that's going to be different than some, that's.
Well, I'll speak right to that. I mean, so every Thursday, right around noon, we shut down the companies.
Perfect.
All three companies, and we have a farm day because there's a lot of work on a farm. So my wife is here and we go work the farm. So whether that's fixing barns, fixing fences, doing new projects or whatever. So, and what's cool is most of those activities are not a lot of heavy brain lifting activities.
It allows you to actually put the other companies on the back burner, and you come back to them more refreshed.
Yep. Because I can jump on a tractor for 3 hours mowing the farm, and you can kind of listen to a podcast, but those tractors are loud. So you're just 3 hours for the most part lost in your own damn thoughts. Yes. And you want to talk about a state of meditation because you just got the grind of the engine going. All you are is just so a better way of looking at this. So I got diagnosed with ADHD last year.
Okay.
And
Squirrel.
Right. It comes back to a point. I was a jerk as a kid, and being diagnosed with ADHD doesn't give me an excuse for how I was, but it's a great explanation for how I showed up, right?
Sure.
So what I realized after I was diagnosed is my entire life has been a series of distracted learning, which means I got to be distracted to learn. So as a kid, I doodled, right, to learn. So in the mornings, every morning at 4:00, I walk the farm and listen to a podcast because the podcast is enough distraction to be able to focus on my companies, which has been really, really cool activity. And I created this whole thing called Champions 90. That's a free thing that people can go look up at champions90.com. And it's a way to get focused on your business for 90 days. And what I found is I told everybody I hate the whole idea of meditation. And because the whole idea of sitting for 5 minutes, my mind just can't do it, sit still like that. So when I told a gal that's a friend of mine that's a meditation coach, I'm like, I just can't ever meditate. She goes, you idiot. Every time you are walking down that driveway or you're on your tractor and you're distracted enough to think, you're freaking meditating. And I'm like, wait, I didn't know that was meditation. So to bring it full circle, when I sit on that damn tractor, I didn't understand that that was a form of meditation, but that's how I meditate, is being distracted enough to focus on thinking.
I think that's really important. I've had in recent podcasts, I've had somebody who's a meditation expert of sorts talk about how walking on the beach will clear your mind, but it's not really meditation. And I think the truth really is there are various forms of meditation. Okay. So absolutely walking on the beach, absolutely driving the tractor. The idea of mindfulness, it's to let go of the lists that we keep in our head and to just be present. And when you're on a tractor, you got nothing else. It's like you're on a tractor, and the thoughts come and they flow. And the idea of meditation is you just pay attention to the thought and then you let it go, and you pay attention to the thought and you let it go. And there's no like wrestling with it. And so just,
I want to add to it for me, because it's a little different for me.
Okay.
So
I'm glad.
I get these freaking, and it drives my team nuts, because they're like, all of a sudden you get hit with like a bolt of lightning. So especially when I'm listening to podcasts, it's one of my favorite things to do on my walks. But I will hear something, and because I'm so distracted from the podcast and the walk doing two activities at once, it will hit my subconscious like a crazy thing. And I'm like, son of a bitch, where's that been? And it's oftentimes the exact solution I'm looking for in the company. So for me, it's not about letting the thought go. I actually have to pull out my phone and capture the thought
Perfect.
And then I go right back to it without thinking about the thought, but I've captured it so I can move on.
Most of us have that happen in the shower, and it's not that convenient to go reach out.
This is true.
So it's like, darn it. Let me write that in soap on the shower door. I think it comes back to kind of manifestation. That you allow yourself to be open to here's the solution you were looking for, by the way, right? It's like, oof, it's served to you. And I think that's the truth for all of us, is that it is right in front of us. If we just be open enough to listen to it, to see it, to recognize it, it's like, it's right there when you need it.
Well, I also think you have to know where you're going.
Yes.
Right. So there's an idea behind being open to receive the thing. But if you're not asking specific questions of some sort, like, so my biggest purpose in life is I'm going to help as many people get to business freedom as I possibly can.
Perfect.
And the reason I'm going to do that is because nobody taught me business, right? As I got out there, I failed so miserably in business and didn't want anybody to know years 1, years 2, because I thought if anybody knew how bad a business I was doing, nobody would do business with me. So I made myself an island, which only made my mental game worse, which only made me worse, because misery loves company. And once you start getting miserable, you'll find other ways to make yourself miserable and everybody else around you.
Yes.
So freaking, I realized along the way that everybody was saying, get in the game and start a business. There's a huge movement of leave corporate America, start your own company.
Sure.
So you got all these people that have left corporate America that were executives and salespeople and operational people that have never run a business their entire life. And this was my case. I was a sales guy for 20 years. I had no idea how to run a freaking business. And now you're expected to go sell, do operations, do accounting, do all the things and all the moving parts it requires you to run a successful business. And nobody was really out there saying, hey, this is what you should do next. Here's the next step you go. Here's the next phase of that. So I started sharing all the things that I was screwing up and how I was figuring them out. And people started leaning in. And I wasn't selling anything. I was just trying to help as many freaking people as possible. And business were built around those ideas. But the trick of the matter is once you decide to go down a path of what your purpose. So my purpose is help as many people get to freedom, right? Through building a business. That's a massive vision. And the only way I can do that is I have to build a business to rival somebody like a Tony Robbins. I don't have no desire to be Tony Robbins. I have no desire to do it his way. He's a brilliant businessman. He's running, I think, like 101 companies at the tune of $7 billion. And people think of him only as a motivational speaker. They don't think about the business side of things. Right. So for me to accomplish this, I'm going to have to build a business that will rival that, which is a monster undertaking. And it actually, truth of the matter, intimidates the hell out of me.
As it should, right?
Right.
As it should.
Absolutely. That's the vision of where I'm going. So for these thoughts to flow properly, you got to know where you're trying to end up. And so for me, everything then is a skill acquisition game, because everything can be learned. And so I know, like right now, if you gave me the reins and said, Donnie, you're now president of the Tony Robbins companies, I'd fail miserably. Because I don't have the skill set. I don't have the mental upgrades. I haven't evolved enough to run that company. So all I know is between here and there is some sort of skill gap.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to go acquire those skills. So a lot of that being open to receive the information is knowing where you're going so you can ask the questions. And the questions can be completely generic in nature as long as you're focused on where you're trying to get to.
I love it. You know what I call that?
Tell me.
The GPS.
I like it.
You got to know, look, you got to know where you are, where are you starting. You have to have your end goal in mind, where you headed. And then the whole thing about a GPS, like you could know where you are and be sort of vague about where you're headed. A GPS won't get you there. You could be really clear about where you're headed and not have a clue where you are. GPS isn't going to get you there. You could know where you are and be very specific about where you want to go and have your car in park.
Yes.
Right. And so the key is, where are you? Where do you want to go? And move. Start taking action so you can get feedback. And that, I think, for you is what you define as the skill acquisition game. Like, as you make a move, you're going to learn something. As you make the, roadblock, that's awesome. What's the workaround? So you're going to learn something. You're going to learn what it takes to actually get to that place you said you wanted to go. And what's cool is, once you get there, you find out that there's another place to go. It's like, that's awesome. Now that I'm here, what's next?
Well, and I love this whole framework of the GPS, because what most people are trying to do, they're trying to become Waze. And with Waze is going to give you the shortcut. Waze is going to give you the workarounds. What Waze is actually doing is making us dumb as navigators. Like, you have to take an average person right now and say, read a map for me. They're lost. You ask which way is north, they have no idea, right? Yeah. Because Waze not only will tell you the fastest route and reroute you around all the traffic, they'll also tell you where the cops are and everything else. So people want the Waze life. They want everything to come easy. They want the shortcuts and the hacks. What they don't understand is they should chunk the GPS somewhat out the window, right? And literally try and pull out the old school map and figure out how to navigate the way you're there. And the only reason I say that is because that's where you're going to make all the mistakes. That's where you're going to make all the screw ups. And it's in making those mistakes and screw ups that you actually learn everything, because there's no better student or teacher in the world than failure. Right.
True.
And so if people will look at life like it's an experiment, then there's no such thing as failure. Because it's just, you just learned a way it didn't work. Heinz 57 is called Heinz 57 because 56 other recipes didn't work for them. Mm-hmm. So it's the idea that if everything's an experiment, then there is no failure unless you quit. So it means you think about, okay, I got this massive vision, what I'm going to try, what I need to do. It's a skill acquisition game. What skills do I need to learn to be able to get there? Now it's, okay, here's the skill I'm trying to learn. Well, I know I'm not going to learn it by reading a book or just watching a YouTube. I'm going to take the knowledge from that book, that podcast, or the YouTube. I'm going to go put that in play, take the action, get punched in the face because I obviously have no idea what I'm doing first. And it's like the first pancake's never good. It's the second and third ones that become really good, right? So then it's a series of going and screwing up, being okay with that because it's just an experiment. If I'm just experimenting, I can experiment in a whole different ways, and I can learn the skill until I get good at that skill and then figure out what's next.
I think that's great. The place that I've seen with my clients, sometimes even with myself, is I have to fail. Right? The idea of, I don't want to set out to fail. And I think that's what holds a lot of people back is, you're not setting out to fail, you're setting out to succeed. And along the way, you're going to find roadblocks. And that's not a failure, that's a roadblock. And it's a setback. And what are you going to learn from it? And I love that there's no failure unless you quit. It's like,
so, yeah. And I want to reframe that for you a little bit, because I think for me, the whole idea here is get excited about failure. And the reason you got to get excited about failure is because, truthfully, that's how we as a species learn.
I think that's the key. It's, I think, what I'm saying is, I don't set out to fail. I do set out to be excited about learning. So as I'm hitting this roadblock, it's not, oh, I failed and that makes me a failure. It's like, oh, this is new. Didn't expect that. Right. What am I going to learn from it? And that's where the excitement actually comes in.
Yeah. So we have this set of codes in our companies. And so people always try and call them core values. They're not core values. These are actual codes. These are what we live by, just like the Knight's Code. Okay. So one sharp sword, we now have codes. One of our codes is go break shit. And the reason we put that in play is because all too often, if we are not trying new things and having things break, we're either getting mundane, bored, or we are staying very, very static in growth.
Nice.
So if anywhere in the companies things get very gray, like it gets very, very, very routine, we know we're not innovating. We know we're not growing. We know we're not trying something new. So that's why we put the code in. You've got to go break things by trying new stuff. It's not about purposely breaking anything. It's about trying something new, knowing it's going to break because it's brand new, and doing it anyways. And that's allowed us to punch through a lot of personal head trash of, hey, should we try this program, or should we hire this vendor, or should we go down this path? Maybe social media is okay. Like right now, I'm trying to understand and learn YouTube. It's been a platform that's kicked my ass. And so I'm trying to learn it.
The thing about YouTube is, as with most social platforms, is that as soon as you learn it, the model changes.
Yep.
Right. And so you've got to be in a place of constant learning.
Well, and I'll tell you, for me, learning YouTube has been it's been a treat, even though it frustrates the hell out of me, because it helped me understand one thing about all social media. All social media has one goal, and that's to keep people on the platform.
You bet.
Right. And so if you are not producing content that teaches or entertains and keeps people on the platform, the algorithm is not going to show you to anybody.
Right.
And so it's understanding which type of content and how the content is said, show up, everything. There's so many moving parts in it that allows the algorithm to go, okay, we got something here. Let's show it to more people.
You know you are bigger than the life you are leading. It really is time to attend to that thing you've wanted to do or have, but you've been putting off. It's time to step into that dream you've parked for someday. It's time to claim true well-being, both personally and professionally, without giving up the success that got you here. It's time to check out Dr. Pernell's signature small group retreat, the Exponential Success Summit. Explore exponentialsuccesssummit.com. Seats are extremely limited, as this is a very special small group event. www.exponentialsuccesssummit.com.
Let me bring you back to you for a second. First, I want to ask you to define something for me. And then I want you to talk a little bit about how that plays out. And what I'd love for you to define is what this phrase means to you.
Okay.
Business freedom. What does that mean to you, specifically to you?
I love it. So for me, business freedom is building freedom from your own mindset that made you the employee. Freedom comes when your life matches your expectations. And I just believe most people are going to meet themselves, which is the ultimate freedom. If you understand who you are, then that's going to get you to freedom, right? But the best way to meet yourself is to build a business. And the reason I say that is because in building a business, you're going to get to a point where you finally run out of your own excuses. Because as an employee, excuses are freaking easy. Right? You can blame the economy, you can blame marketing, you can blame operations, you can blame anything, and they're legitimate excuses, right? There's somebody can be blamed for something. When you run your own business and it's your own thing, right? There is nobody left to blame. This is yours. And so the moment I walked out the back door of my farm and looked at my wife and said, babe, we're about to lose everything we own because I had no idea how to run a business, was one of the darkest moments of my life.
I'll bet.
And, I walked upstairs to my mirror and I looked myself in the mirror and I'm like, dude, you're not holding up your end of the bargain of this marriage. to your own life, anything. And I'm like, you got to turn off the noise. This is on you, dude.
How did you realize, you know what? I am so invested in success that I must change versus, wow, the circumstances are so big, I can't dig out.
And there's a lot of people that don't like this answer because I've said it on a few shows. I personally had to get to a place where there was no choice because nothing else was working. I tried the journaling, the manifestation. I tried the goal setting, the visualizations. I tried freaking everything and nothing was working. And I can tell you specifically why none of it works. None of it worked because I was looking for a silver bullet, not to do the work. Right. I was looking for the shortcuts, the hacks and the likes to be able to do this stuff. And I wasn't wanting it to be hard. I was wanting it to be very easy. Building a business is not easy. So I needed to fail so bad that I had no choice but to build myself up. J.K. Rowling's got one of my favorite quotes of all time, and it says, "Rock bottom's the foundation of which I built my life." And it took me looking my wife in the eyes and say, we're about to lose everything, our dream farm and everything we've ever built, to finally get me to go, all right, dumbass, it's time to freaking run. You got no excuses left. Nobody else is going to lace up your boots. Nobody else is going to go sell for you. Nobody else is going to do. And then I had to start getting punched in the face. And once I got to that place where I was out of excuses, and I love Jocko Willink's book, Extreme Ownership. But once I finally took ownership of my entire life, everything started to move in the right direction. It did not get easy. It actually got a lot harder. I was just willing to do the things that needed to get done so I could get where I'm trying to go. And, I screwed up tremendously for 2 years in building a business. And it wasn't until 2.5 years in that I looked at, one of my business partners, and I was like, dude, this actually feels like a business. This actually feels like we're doing something here, but it took a thing. So a phrase that I say around the team all the time that drives them absolutely bonkers that I say it every time something breaks in a company, every time something screws up, goes south or goes wrong. I'm like, sorry guys, my fault. And they're like, no, I've screwed it. And I'm like, guys, you don't understand. It's completely my fault because it's somewhere, anything breaks in a company, it's ultimately back to me because I made a decision somewhere down the line that allowed that to break or screw up or happen. I'm not saying I'm at fault. I'm not saying I am a fault. I'm saying it's my fault. And every time I do that, my brain shifts from, oh, we screwed that up, to solution mode. How do we fix this, right? How do we make this right? How do we do it better next time versus going, Johnny, what the hell? Why'd you let that happen? And you instantly turn off the solution mind and you won't fix whatever's breaking in the future.
Nice. It's accountable versus blameful.
Yes. Oh,
that was brilliant. Write it down. Okay. So that's awesome. No, that's really good. So for you, that is business freedom. There's the tales about burning the boats, right? And the warriors, the soldiers that came and it's like, okay, men, we're gonna fight. It's like, well, we can't fight. It's like, yeah, we're going to because I've burned the boats. It's like now you have no choice. So you put yourself in, or you declared there's no choice. We're at a point, we're at rock bottom. So I love that. And for you, that's the other thing, by the way, is I've worked with people that are like, well, I don't know, I've never hit rock bottom. Is it still okay if I build a business? It's like, yes,
yes.
Start where you are. You don't have to.
Don't do it the way I did it.
Right. Your life doesn't have to be a disaster or a catastrophe in order for you to actually be a success. Allow yourself the wins. and hopefully that you know that rock bottom exists and you don't have to be there.
Right.
Just take on the accountability, right? So all right, so
to that point, they need to become responsible to themselves.
yes,
somewhere along the line, we as a society made it okay that we could let ourselves off the hook, like that we could celebrate our own weakness. If you will let yourself off the hook, even in business, you're going to let yourself off the hook everywhere else.
yeah, so letting yourself off the hook is not a thing. Welcome
Absolutely.
back.
Gotta love these storms and everything else.
I know. So yeah, at the time of this recording, if the recording after edits sounds a little glitchy, the reason is that both Donnie and I are in places of unstable internet. So yeah, let's talk a bit about, you've talked a little bit about your definition of business freedom. You've talked about how you got there and what you do with it. You guide other people through this now too.
Mm-hmm.
So who's your ideal client? Like, is it somebody that has an entrepreneurial seizure and says, I want to run a business? Or is it someone that's in business? Or, is it someone that needs accountability? Is it someone that goes, I want this freedom? And is it okay not to want to work really hard? Like all of that, right? So
yeah, no, for us, I will say we're building a model to teach people how to make that leap and build a successful business. But our business is not focused there. Our business is focused on business growth. We're looking for the people that have made the leap, gone probably 2 years into business, and have now finally gotten to that place going, okay, there's got to be a better way of doing this, because I'm still in the game. I'm banging my head against the wall, but this is still not breaking loose. That's where we want them, because we will teach them how to actually change from a somewhat fixed mindset to a growth mindset and get into skill acquisition mode, and actually teach them how to go through growth phase so they can actually scale. People often get confused between growth and scale, and most businesses only grow. They don't scale, because scaling happens when a business goes from like 10 million to 100 million, and there's no increase in cost. So your cost of goods and whatever it costs to run your business, that stays the same, but you bring on a massive amount of revenue. That's scale. Mm-hmm. Most people only experience incremental growth.
What's interesting about that is that I believe the statistic is that most businesses fail at year 3, right? It's sort of like make it or break it is year 3. And most of them don't. Most of them actually don't succeed. And so if you're getting people that have had 2 years of, I'm in it, but I don't know if I'm going to make it, it is a amazing sweet spot for you.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people that want these 7-figure businesses and bigger. There's a lot of people that are give me your people that are just creeping up on 100,000. Maybe they're upwards of 250,000. Give me that spot to where they're like, man, I'm still not sure if this is gonna make it go. We'll help them really run. And let's be honest, the most people who find success are us idiots who were too dumb to throw in the damn towel. Logic would have told most people to quit when business got as bad as it got and you're on the verge of losing everything. I should have went and got a damn job. But I was so stubborn to go back to work for somebody else. And the main reason, and I don't mind telling this, the main reason I didn't go back to work when I should have was because I would prove everybody else's false beliefs true. What I mean is, so many people are dreaming of a better life. So many people are like, man, I wish I could go start my own company and do my own thing. Mm-hmm. And if I quit, they could have validation in not chasing their own dreams, right? Because, oh God, by God, if Donnie can't do it, I can't do it. Now, I'm not sure a freaking soul was saying that at all as I was going through it, that entire thought process kept me in the game more than anything else.
I think that's really important for each of us, though, to recognize that, whatever level you're at, I believe that every one of the audience members listening to this or watching this is a leader. And even if you are working a job job, or if you are a serial entrepreneur, you're a leader. And the reason you're a leader is that even as an employee, you're being watched. You are offering some model, some role model, and you're being watched. And so I believe that it is up to each of us as a leader to model the way. And it's not, I'm going to prove it to somebody. It's, I know that as a leader, I need to show up at my best, and I need to show people what is possible. And in doing so, I will lift others along the way. So for me, I love that. I love what you said about, when logic tells you to quit and you're too damn stubborn. It's like, that's awesome. That is how success happens. Right. And it's you being that that stubborn leader that says, no, this is going to happen. I will find a way. And it's almost like it's a declaration at that point. I will find a way, and I think that's the magic.
Yeah. Well, and truthfully, most people, when it gets hard, is when they quit. So the best way I can explain this is like, somebody's starting a company and they're like, you know what? I'm going to start a podcast, because the podcast is going to be the thing that builds my brand. So they get out, they record an episode, they put it out, it goes out to, all the platforms, and they're like, crap, I got to record another episode. Like, damn, that's a lot of work. So then they go out and they start, doing another episode, and they're like, you know what, this is too much work. Screw that. I'm going to go write a book, because a book is going to be the answer. So they go out and they start writing a book, and they're like, oh my God, now I got to come up with chapters. Now I got to write all these words. Yeah, no, that's too hard. I'm going to do a YouTube channel. So let's do a YouTube channel. So they go out and they start recording videos for the YouTube channel. Like, oh my God, I got to do this every week. I got to come up with ideas and contents, and I got to edit it. That's too hard. So like, you know what? I'm going to write a blog, because a blog's going to be the thing. So, and every time it gets to the moment of getting hard, they quit.
Yeah.
Success is found that moment that when it gets hard, you keep stepping forward and you start screwing things up and start learning from those screw ups and evolve. Because if you follow anybody's journey that's at any sort of levels of success, when the times got hard, they leaned in and didn't run away from it. They're like, now this is fun. Got to make those fun times hard.
Yeah, hard times fun. Yeah, absolutely. There's a saying that I just blanked, but I just blanked on what the saying was. What I wanted to show you, there's an analogy, right? The saying is, don't wish that your problems would go away. Wish for yourself to be strong enough to handle.
Oh, it's Jim Rohn. It's Jim Rohn. So Jim Rohn says, don't wish it were easy. Wish you were better.
So, and I love that, right? Don't wish it were easy. Wish you were better. This is the analogy I use, right? Here's a 10-pound weight. And I just happen to have it in my office. Look,
we got show and tell. I love it.
So as a 10-pound weight, I could pump it, I could hold it. I guarantee you, if I held it out in front of me for long enough, it would get really heavy. It would be really hard. Now, the thing is that having that 10-pound weight and holding it out there, maybe I can do it for 10 seconds. Maybe tomorrow I can do it for 15. Maybe the next day I might get to a minute. Maybe the next day or week or month, I could hold it out there for 5 minutes. Maybe. Now, the whole thing about that is that the weight hasn't changed, but my ability to hold it, my ability to pump it, my ability to get through it has changed. And I use that analogy because of what you just said about people quitting when it gets hard. the problems will be there. The problems are pretty predictable in pretty much every business.
Yep.
And your ability to handle those problems, they don't get easier, you get better.
Yes.
And that's the trick, right? That's the trick. And I think that's a key component of business freedom for you, when you help people through to see that they're just problems to be solved, and like they're just a thing, you know.
Well, absolutely. And yeah, as long as people understand that we are an evolutionary species, right? So we are going to evolve to the next level. And
Yeah.
if you think about us being an evolutionary species, what got you here will not get you there.
Yes.
And I don't know who coined this first, but it's a brilliant thought process. It's like, if you've ever played a video game, every time you get to a new level in the video game, you've got to learn the skills, get the weapons, get all the stuff for that level. All the stuff that you brought with you to that point is going to get your ass whooped going through that game at that level. So now you've got to go learn and acquire all the new things to be able to beat that level. Life's the same way.
Level up.
You got to level up. That's it. That's where the whole idea comes from. And I wish I could give credit to whoever I heard that the first time, but that's the idea. Is you literally, as an individual, have to evolve, and only way to evolve is to go do the hard things.
And it's what's interesting about that is that you don't abandon all those skills or all the
Correct.
weapons or all the acquisitions you've made along the way. You build on them, and that way it's sort of like you don't get from level 1 to level 7. You work your way through level 1 to
absolutely.
level 7. I used to teach martial arts, and occasionally I would teach it. I taught it to adults. I taught it mostly to kids through the Parks and Rec department. And occasionally I'd get a parent coming to me going, well, what does it take to get a black belt? Like how can my kid get a black belt? And I'm like, well, for $8, I can give him a black belt. Right. It's like, here, you could buy a black belt. Here you go. It's like, well, that's not what I meant. I'm like, awesome. I'm glad, because for everybody, they go through a process. You have to learn, and it could take, I was being sort of smart and sarcastic. Obviously, I didn't do it to every parent, but there were some that were like, my child deserves a black belt. How can they get a black belt? And when they would approach me like that, like, I want them to advance really fast. It's like, your child will advance, and, any student. And if you think of yourself as a student of your business, you will advance as fast as you will advance.
Yeah.
And you got to show up and do the work, and hopefully you enjoy it. And,
right. A friend of mine, Laura DeFranco, has got like 55 best-selling books, and she's a 3rd or 4th degree black belt in Taekwondo. She gave me a phrase once upon a time that I love. She said, a black belt is a white belt with the skills of a black belt. Meaning you got to go back to the white belt, you don't know shit mentality.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah. No, I'm a 4th level black belt. And the idea is that when you reach black belt, a lot of people will quit. It's like, I got my trophy, ta-da, I'm a black belt, yay me. Other people go, oh, I reached black belt. That means I've just learned how to learn.
Yes.
So let me start here.
God, that's a great phrase. I learned how to learn.
Yeah.
That's the truth. That's the real truth.
And it's the truth in business. It's the truth in a few. I'm a big fan of curiosity, and it's like, you keep yourself in this place of wonder and learning. You're going to stay out of judgment, and you're going to open more to wonder and learning. And this is amazing. So, Donnie, we are close to the end of our time together. Here's the question for you, which is, what do you wish I would have asked you? What are you hoping to impart as kind of last thoughts for the audience? And if people wanted to reach out to you, how would they do that?
So first, beautiful question. Thank you for it. And guys, if you're listening to this and you've hung out with me and Doc this long, do him a favor and share this episode out to one other person. I can tell you, having my own show, the toughest thing in the world is growing your audience. So if you got any value out of this, any tips, something that worked for you, share this episode or one of his other episodes out and tell one other person to listen to the show. It'll mean the world to him. I would tell you, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. I would tell you the biggest thing, guys, is understand that you have to be the champion of your life. Nobody else is going to do this for you. Nobody is going to step in and help you get there. You got to lean in and go find the hard moments in life and go do those hard things. When you get to those hard moments, realize that you're in skill acquisition phase and that you need to learn the skills. So understand that it's going to be a mental upgrade to go through that, but you have to go through that so you will evolve to get where you want to go. Be the champion of your success, because the moment you realize that success is your fault and failure is your fault, you start winning. And that is taking ownership of your life. Go kick some ass, freaking put on your freaking big boy and big girl pants and get after it. And just knowing there's guys like me and Doc out here that are carving a big ass trail. And if you can't figure it out on your own, just follow what we do, because we're going to leave enough freaking things on the trees and whatnot so you can find your way. Follow us. We're going to carve a trail to make sure you get there. Thanks for having me on, Doc.
Yep. So how do they find you?
The easiest way is go to DonnieBoivin.com. So DONNIE, B as in boy, OI, V as in Victor, IN.com. And it'll get to all of the social stuff, all of the sites. And if you listen to podcasts, go grab a Growth Mode podcast wherever you listen to podcasts or YouTube.
That's awesome. I want to underscore two of the last things you said. One is, I mean, this has sort of been the theme, which is awesome. You have to be the champion of your life. You have to be the champion of your life. And then the other is to just really recognize, look, when it's hard, it's not that there's something wrong with you. It's that you are in skill acquisition mode. Yep. And that if that's the trigger, if you can think of yourself, remind yourself, oh, this is hard. It's like, yes, now I'm in skill acquisition mode. This is hard. Okay, what skill do I need? Now you start asking the right questions and you get movement forward versus getting into whining mode. This is hard. It's like, yes, it's hard. Ta-da. So this is awesome. Good deal. Donnie Boivin, and I will put your spelling in the show notes, because DonnieBoivin.com is what you want to get to. Cool. Good stuff, Donnie. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Dude, my honor. This was a hell of a conversation. Even, got through the storm and everything. So
yeah.
Thanks for having me on, bud. I really appreciate it.
Really appreciate you being here. That's awesome. Thank you. All right. Donnie Boivin has been my guest. We've talked about business freedom and a whole bunch of other things. This is a one sharp sword cutting through to what matters most. I am your host, Dr. P, Dr. Wayne Pernell, the exponential success coach. We'll see you here next time. Thanks for joining us.